So there are many useful relational operators predefined in MATLAB. You often want to check whether something is greater than a threshold, whether it's equivalent to some value that you're looking for, and that's where all these relational operators come in. They're all pretty self-explanatory. The greater than symbol is what you'd expect. The less than or equal to symbol is what you'd expect. I have a typo here. This should be a less than symbol, and it shows a greater than one. But you get what I mean. Let me make a note to fix that. Okay, the equal to command is two equal signs. That will check whether two numbers are the same. And the not equal to command puts that little squiggly shape, that tilde shape before the equals, to check whether two things are not equal to each other. So not equal will be true if what's on the left and on the right are different. So in this code, which I've written into the command line, you can tell it's in the command line because it has my chevrons at the top. It's in my command window rather than my editor. I've defined x equals 6 and y equals 9. Just a reminder that you can do that on the same line, separated by semicolons. If I then check whether x is greater than y, it's giving me a 0 back, because that's false. X is not greater than y. 6 is not greater than 9. If I check whether x is less than or equal to y, that is returning a 1. That is true, because x is less than or equal to y. And that's very useful for when we're working with some of these conditional statements that we'll come across soon, the for loops and if statements. We're going to use these relational operators quite a lot. So here's the final thing we'll introduce today, is these conditional statements. So an if statement is one of the most common things we will use. And the way it works is, as your code's going through line by line, the same way you've been doing everything up to now, you will reach an if statement. At that point, it will check some condition. It will check some relational operator. Whatever the condition is, it has to eventually evaluate to true or false. So it'll check for something and see whether it's true or false. If it's true, it will run all the code within the if statement. If it's false, it will skip to the end of the if statement and do whatever code comes after that. So it will, the condition can be anything. It can be complicated, it can be simple. As long as it eventually evaluates to true or false, it's suitable for an if statement. So here's a small example. I've created a new text editor document called ifstatement.m. I've created two new variables in that script, one called exp1, one called exp2, where exp1 is less than exp2. I've then got some code that checks whether exp1 is greater than or equal to exp2. So the syntax in MATLAB for an if statement is the keyword if, then some condition in brackets that evaluates to true or false. So if exp1 is greater than or equal to exp2, let's do something. What do I want to do? Well, if it is true, I'm going to set some variable called max equal to exp1. And you'll notice I've got no semicolon at the end of that line. So if that line is run, we should see it printed to the screen. In MATLAB, you then finish your if statement with an end by typing end and hitting enter. And that's the entire script that we need at this point. You'll notice the contents of my if statement are indented underneath it. MATLAB may automatically do that. If you type if and begin typing and hit enter, it may indent your code underneath. If it doesn't, press a tab to give yourself the indentation. Some people use a couple of spaces. It's not actually, MATLAB doesn't interpret that white space, but it's important to lay out your code so that you can see, as your code gets more and more complicated, that you have ifs and elses, and you can see which code belongs to which if statement. So when you've written that, run that code, and you should see that nothing is printed to the screen. And can everyone see why nothing is printed to the screen? Because the statement that we're running, the exp1, is not greater than or equal to exp2. So this statement is false. Therefore, the if statement isn't executed. So what you can do is add an else statement under your if statement to run if the condition is false. So if exp1 is greater than or equal to exp2, let's set the max equal to exp1. Else, let's set the max equal to exp2. This way it will either do one or the other. And in this case, it's going to do the other. It's going to do max equal to exp2. Note there's no semicolons on the end of these lines, so everything is being shown on the screen. And when you run it now, you should see max printed to the screen with a value 500.